So welcome and thanks for joining our today's sessions. In this webinar, we will focus on the functionalities of the asset strategy and performance management solution as part of the SAP's new intelligent asset management technologies. So today we intend to go deeper into the respective subject matter, providing you with the insights of what capabilities and methodologies can be utilized within the SAP's intelligent asset management. So why am I saying this? This ASPM webinar is part of our Industry 4.0 series, focusing on manufacturing and asset management. And this is our second webinar within the asset management environment. So today we're going to go a bit deeper into the respective functionalities. Okay. Now let's talk about, let's look at our agenda for today. We will begin with the introduction of our team and of course Westernacher itself. After that, we will start our deep dive into the ASPM by talking about the importance of a comprehensive asset management and maintenance strategy. This is followed by the explanation of the solution itself, touching the topics of risk assessments, provisioning of recommendations, and subsequent review of assessments. So, and finally, we will give you an impression of how the functions are actually implemented within the system by providing you with a live demo. And after that, there will be a Q&A. Before we get deeper into the topic, let me introduce the team. For today's sessions, first of all, we have Prasad, who is an enterprise asset management consultant at Westernacher and has over 12 years of experience in SAP plant maintenance. Further, we have David, who couldn't join us sadly today, but is also part of the team and who has extensive and varied background in topics of plant maintenance, procurement, materials management, and also warehouse management. He has over 30 years of experience, including 25 of using SAP technology. To myself, my name is Alexander Hero. I am an SAP Industry 4.0 consultant focusing on topics of manufacturing and asset management as well. A few practical terms for this webinar. So everyone will be muted. You can raise your questions in the chat box to your right. We will collect those questions and answer them at the end of our presentation. The presentation will be recorded and distributed to you afterwards. So also you can find these recordings of this webinar and also of the webinars I've talking about before on our YouTube channel and on the Westernacher website. Now, let's give you a brief overview of who we are at Westernacher. We are a SAP Gold partner with a history of more than 50 years. We have over 650 consultants globally, everywhere from the Americas or Europe to Asia, and we are 100% employee owned. We cover the SAP digital supply chain solution portfolio in total, from planning to manufacturing up to logistics execution, all integrated into S/4HANA, ERP, and finance. For today's session, we, as the part of the Industry 4.0 team, will focus on the aspect of asset management and manufacturing with SAP technology. These solutions embedded into the overall supply chain are bridging the planning and logistics execution. Further, they are able to integrate machines on the shop floor, so basically operational technology with top-level processes. So the focus of today will not only be from an IT perspective, but also highlight the business perspective and the business benefits. And this is the point where I hand over to Prasad, who will take you into the depths of the solution.
Yep. Thanks, Alex, for that. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. So my name is Prasad, and I'm going to take you through asset strategy performance management deep dive. So as Alex said before, this is our follow-up webinar to our previous webinar happened in last month. Basically, we introduced intelligence asset management, a complete solution provided by SAP in asset management area. And this is a follow-up webinar. Now we are going to talk about the specific feature SAP has provided in assets strategy performance management, one of the cloud capability, and we will see more details in it. So before going into the solution, let's understand the business background and drivers for it, right? So ASPM is all about your asset assessment and improving your asset performance. And then question could be like, why now, or what exactly changing into the industry, and why we should be looking out for this solution. And then solution can be easily understand if we quickly summarize or understand the overall maintenance strategy, how basically that has been evolved from over years. So just quickly, our first generation started earlier in 90 series, where our maintenance strategy was mainly dependent on reactive maintenance. That approach further changed into the second generation, where our maintenance strategy was more on preventive maintenance. Latter preventive maintenance approach was continued, and your assets are further increased in terms of complexity. They started coming in built with your machines and electronics and softwares, and basically that required skilled resources and more dedicated maintenance strategy to maintain them, right? And that is what all about your third generation, where again the number of new maintenance reliability solution like reliability center maintenance or FMEM or different failure pattern that has been evolved over this period of time. Now we are in the fourth generation. Typically this industry 4.0, this word first time introduced in 2011 in one of the industrial fair in Germany. And from thereafter, business are always using this term to initiate their digital transformation or adopting the new solutions. So is it a only technology change? So probably I will say no. It's not only the technology change. If you see the organization's mentality, that is also changing. So as compared to your earlier days, now organizations are more focused to drive their business in low cost and high revenue type of model. And when we say low cost, expectations are always that your maintenance cost should be low, and higher revenue always demand the higher availability of your machines, right? And again, from reliability engineer perspective, they are under a tremendous pressure or expectation from them is that they need to really understand their investment so that they will get the higher return of investment whenever they are spending any money on any maintenance exposure, right? So that is what all about. Again, those expectations are changing. From standardization perspective also, business are always looking towards adopting standardization because they always compare their performance within their divisions or sometimes with the locations or sometimes with the industry. And the only objective is to adapt those best practices and work towards more standardized work management solution, right? And again, the ISO standard like 55,000 for asset management and 31,000 for risk management, those are like a guideline for the industry to adopt those standardization. But then question is again here, these ISO standards help us or guide us what to be done, but how to be done, that is again a separate question. From globalization point of view also, people are now using web-based services and interacting with their business partners or manufacturer across the globe. Many times those are situated across the opposite side of the world and they are talking a different language or different culture. And but basically that introduce a lot of new business opportunities, and yeah, that help us to again demands a newer or greater collaborative model where basically they can work together and work together, right? So from social responsibility perspective also, as compared to your earlier days, business are more concerned to address any risk associated with your health or safety or environmental related issues, right? they need to know any defects associated with your machines well before in hand, because defect always costs for money, right? And basically that again introduce the predictive maintenance approach, which is again one of the main reason why industries are looking for this industry 4.0 approach. And lastly, innovation. So innovation is again a core of every revolution, right? Industry 4.0 is again not exception for it. So technologies like your Internet of Things or machine learning or AI or big data, those are like new things which are coming and basically changing the business mindset, how the typically maintenance was doing in the past and what could be the future. Again, technology like Internet of Things or sensor based or condition based maintenance, that is something not new for at least maintenance industry. So industries like paper or milling industry, they are using this sensor based maintenance from last so many years. But what exactly changing is now is the power of taking the right decision. So other technology like your machine learning or data analytics that help to read those information or data points correctly and take a meaningful decision out of it. And that is why I think most of the industries are looking after for this industry 4.0 and adapting to initiate their digital transformation. So I'm taking you to next slide. Yep. So just to understand more deeper of aspect of it. So we all know, right? These are the 6 failure pattern typically observed with any asset. So wherein your failure pattern A, B, and C, those are age-related failure pattern and can be addressed by using a preventive maintenance approach. And your failure pattern D, E, and F, those are random-based failure or typically observed with your machines. And one of the survey done on one of the aircraft, you can see almost 90% problems are related to your non-aging related or random based failures, and only 10% problems are related to your age based failure pattern. Again, the key take point from here is that if you are only following the preventive maintenance approach as of now, then probably again it's not I would say right or complete solution, and we have to see some different options by which we can address all the problems well before in hand, so that we can get the maximum outcome or availability. Again, on the right side, the bar chart explain us that preventive maintenance is always good to reduce your unplanned maintenance, and it always help us to reduce the overall maintenance expenditure. But if you do the over preventive maintenance, it always leads to the overall increase in maintenance cost, and sometimes it's also introduces maintenance induced failure, which typically business doesn't want to see, right? And again, the key point here is that we should not be doing over maintenance, or we should not be doing less maintenance. We should be doing the right maintenance. And again, the business are really need to define a right maintenance strategy to decide what is the right maintenance for them. So one of the again well-known practice we all know, reliability center maintenance, which is being used into the industry from last 20-30 years, and which basically again could be a solution for this couple of challenges which we discussed on the previous slides. So basically reliability center maintenance method help us to understand our equipment more in detail, and then based on your maintenance strategy or based on your asset requirements and its position into your operational line, it help us to guiding a right maintenance strategy adoption process. As an example, as a first step in reliability centerments, we do to check the risk associated with your equipment. So the question we ask ourselves, like for a given equipment, do we have any risk associated with health, safety, environment, or operational loss, or maybe it could be an economical loss? And if answer is yes, then definitely we need to follow the detailed analysis to decide a right maintenance strategy. But if none of this risk is associated with that equipment, then probably those equipment could be like small item or non-critical item or unlikely to fail, right? And for such equipment, we can always rely on run to failure or reactive maintenance, because those are not harming us our into the business processes. But if any of this risk is associated, then definitely we need to go for detailed analysis with condition-based monitoring. And then question could be, does that asset allow us to do the right condition monitoring from that asset. And again, if answer is yes, then definitely we should be going for the predictive maintenance, which basically addresses all random base failure or issues which are not related to normal wear and tear, or sometimes even maintenance induced failure, right? But then if that asset doesn't have a right mechanism to do the condition based monitoring, then question again could be like, does it follow any failure pattern which we can relate to the aging failures, or does it related to aging failures? And if answer again is yes, then we can go for preventive maintenance approach, which basically addresses all the issues related to your normal wear and tear or aging related failure. But unfortunately your asset doesn't follow any aging related failure pattern or doesn't support condition based monitoring, then I think it's the right time to think and invest into the redesign of those assets. Again, redesign is not always a structural change. So sometimes it could be a like smaller change where we can install a safety alert mechanism or some sensors to give us the right feedback about the physical health condition of that asset. But many times it could be a simple change like some process improvement or even a master data improvement. As an example, your machine would have some sensor already installed, but then typically till date we never use that sensor input to decide our maintenance approach, right? So again, the point here is that we need to go for this type of thinking where basically depending on your physical health condition of your machines, we need to define an appropriate condition. And basically overall, this reliability center maintenance help us to understand and analyze your equipment end to end by doing this assessment process. Question again here is that in the market we have number of tools available, right? And then which one we should be really choosing? And again, answer for this could be SAP Asset Strategy Performance Management. Now we all know SAP is a well-known solution provider within manufacturing industry, so they understand business challenges and best practices, and based on that they always provide a best practices, maybe depending on industry specific or solutions perspective. And again, ASPM is not exceptional case for that. So let's understand this SAP ASPM solution in detail. So before going into the deeper dive, let me quickly summarize here overall IAM solution first, so that we can understand the ASPM position within it, and then we will quickly see ASPM architecture view, and then we will see into the system what exactly this solution is all about. So as I said, ASPM is one of the cloud capability within intelligence asset management. And apart from that, we have a predictive asset insight, another cloud capability, which basically is all about your sensor inputs and your machine learning and data analytics. And as per recent release from SAP, this both ASPM and PAI, both capability are calling as one product as asset performance management. So basically both the products share the same master data layer, which is Asset Central, a common cloud master data layer, and one can share and exchange the data between the both the modules. Apart from that, we have a asset intelligence network around the circle. That is another cloud capability provided by SAP to manage your business partners and collaborate with them, so that they can help us to improve your master data and as well as the transactional data as per the recent release given by the SAP, right? So you can share your work orders or work with your business partner like service provider by using this model. Down the line, we have a EAM ERP system, which can be your ECC or S4 HANA system, which basically help us to execute your existing plant maintenance processes like planning, execution, or scheduling part. And all this solution basically supported by your mobile solution, which is asset manager. Asset manager, sorry. So with that, let me take you to the deeper dive of ASPM, and then we will see the technical demonstration of this solution. So ASPM basically come up with 6 building block. So we are starting with the defined phase in a clockwise direction. So defined phase is all about your master data, because once you have a right master data, you would run a correct assessment and it gives the better result, right? So that's why this first step of define is very important, where basically SAP has introduced this asset central as a master data layer. This allow us to transform or convert your data, conversion your data from your third-party sources or multiple ERP system on this one cloud platform. So basically, it becomes a single source of truth for your master data. And while maintaining those master data, SAP has now come up with many new master data objects, which again provides more integrity in your master data. Again, while maintaining those master data, SAP also support the ISO standards, and that is why again the more standardizations come into the picture. And lastly, AI and component, basically it's a collaborative platform where your business expert like your manufacturers or service provider, so sometimes they are more expert than you and understand your machines very well. So they can also help us and own your business objects to maintain their master data details into the system. So once we have that latest and greatest master data into the system, then probably the next step is identify where we can run the risk and criticality assessment for your asset. This is again important because we should be knowing the importance and performance of your asset, and depending on its risk score, we need to define maintenance strategy, right? So as an example, any highly critical asset, we should be doing a more detailed analysis, but for low critical asset, we can run for the failure, right? And again, this the identify phase allow us to do that assessment at the group of equipment level or location level or even at the single equipment level. And once we identify those assessment score, we then can run a detailed assessment by using reliability center maintenance, failure mode effect analysis or checklist, and some more additional methodologies which are available as a part of ASPM solution. So all this assessment available under the analysis phase basically give us the recommendation as the outcome. So these recommendations are again a preventive or corrective actions which eventually we execute in our plant maintenance system, which is nothing but your EM, S4HANA or ERP system. Okay, so as of now, this integration is, I would say, semi-automatic, where we can only manage with this couple of Excel-based upload and workflow actions. But then SAP has some future roadmap here to introduce one of the functionality called dynamic timer, which basically runs your own recommendations automatically, same like your deadline monitoring, and execute into the EM system. And finally, we have verify phase. Again, once we executed any assessment, this is the last step where we can take a 360-degree feedback of your assessment, and we can verify what is the risk mitigation we have done by implementing any recommendation. Or we can also go for the reassessment or compare any assessment, or even we can do analytics by using SAP Analytics Cloud platform, right? So that is all about the complete quick overview of asset strategy performance management solution. So without further delay, let me take you into the system, and we can talk more and see what exactly SAP has provided here. So I'm logging to my system here. So this is a selection screen. So once you log in here with the valid credential, you can able to see the number of standard applications. So these all standard applications are nothing but number of functionalities provided by SAP as a part of your PAI, Productive Asset Insight, or ASPM or AIN. So depending on your subscription, you can see this number of applications here. So today now we are going to take a deep dive onto the number of capabilities from ASPM perspective, starting with the master data. So we're starting with the function. So function is something new master data SAP has introduced here. So function is something like operational context for your equipment. So without deciding any maintenance strategy decision, we should be knowing what is the operational context for your machine, and what basically different parameters your operation team are considering to consider that equipment as a working, right? And then based on that, we can define those functions and also the function failure associated with it. So those are both are a new master data. Apart from that, we have a new master data again, failure modes. So failure modes is again another master data where basically failure modes is nothing but the different modes by which your function failure can occur. So these modes can be assigned further with the causes for that failure and the effects, right? So let me show you one example here of failure mode. So we are opening one of the failure mode for the pump bearing. Okay, this pump bearing is seized. So Let me go into the system detail. Yeah, so as a part of this master data, we can define the number of causes, like this pump bearing can be seized because of improper lubrication or incorrect installation or shaft alignment issue or normal wear and tear. And we can also assign the instructions. So instruction is something like same like a task list, which come up with the number of instruction provided by or steps provided by your manufacturer, and that basically addresses this type of failure modes. Apart from that, we can also define the failure patterns or number of KPIs for this failure modes. And this failure mode further we can assign to the either equipment or location or spare part or system and whatnot. So that is again a quick look of failure modes. Now we are further going into the assessment templates. So this is again a new master data SAP has introduced as a part of ASPM solution. So you can see here all these master data are more standardized. So meaning that now as an example here, dimensions and question. This is a area where we can define our assessment questions or the different dimension on which we want to assess your equipment performance, right? Again, scale and answer, that is again a master data, which is again more standardized. We can define our answers and scales on this tile with the master data. And all the scale and dimensions we can combine together with logically under the section or impact area. And this area further we assign to the number of templates. So these templates are again a one-time activity where we can define templates for a specific maybe category of equipment or so as a part of master data. So let me show you one of the example here for reliability center maintenance of the pump. So opening one of the template, okay. So you can see we have assigned the standardized template of checklist and risk and criticality assessment template. Apart from that, in this master data, we can also define the number of stakeholder from the business side who are responsible for performing this reliability center maintenance. So now these reliability center maintenance can be a people coming from your maintenance team, or those can be your operator or from the operation team. So we can define them into the as a part of master data. And let me show you one example of this checklist template. So within this checklist template, you can see we have identified the number of questions here. All questions come with the standardized number along with the standardized answer. We can also define the attributes, which is same like your characteristics, and indicator is nothing but your sensors. And not for the RCM, but then for other assessment or inspection, we can use these attributes and indicators as a part of recording your normal readings or assessment at the shop floor. Okay. And in answer configuration area, basically all these questions we further configure into the system, meaning that we can define the primary question here, and depending on answer of it, we can subsequently define a follow-up questions. Okay, so this primary action is my first step, and secondary is nothing but my default action. So I can define a primary question as a another question, or I can define directly action, and similarly in secondary I can define an action. So this is how we can configure the number of questions and setup here that help us to further evaluate your equipment health in more detail. Again, this option again come with the simulation option. So simulation is a functionality. Again, SAP is I would say partially working on it. So SAP has some future roadmap to introduce fault tree analysis, reliability block diagram, and Monte Carlo analysis type of tool over here. But those are all coming with the standard SAP disclaimer, and we have to see how those features will available in future for these assessments. Okay, so that is all about the checklist assessment. So now let me show you one more example of risk and criticality, and then we will see how this master data can be used into the system. Again, I'm just opening this risk and criticality, another template, just to look and feel. So this is again come with the number of questions which can help us to identify risk on different dimensions. We can also define the thresholds. Okay, so threshold is where we basically we can define the risk score, and based on that we can identify the criticality of the your equipment. And this criticality of the equipment can be assigned or link or sync with your EAM equipment with your ABC indicator. Okay, so apart from that, we can also define any financial risks associated, or we can define the dimensions or weightage for each and every these questions. Okay, so that is all is a pre-configured things which is set up into the system as a part of master data. Now let me take you into the equipment tile to show you how this all master data can be useful to perform the assessment. So I'm opening this pump 101 as an example, and I'm going into the assessment tab. So this assessment tab is all about your number of assessment. So for this pump, we have executed risk and criticality, and the score has come as 20, which is medium. That's why recommendation is given to run the failure mode effect analysis. So we can run the failure mode effect analysis and identify the risk and prioritization number. Apart from that, we can also run the checklist assessment, which is nothing but inspection, and we can also run the reliability center maintenance on this equipment. So any of these assessment come with the recommendations. So these recommendations are nothing but again a document, okay, which come up with the number of fields, which we are going to see in a while in our example. So it's also come with the analytics capability, which basically help us to compare your risk, for example, here with the normalized risk at the your maybe subclass for this pump, or at the across your equipment level, or we can also see your risk score at the heat map matrix, or we can also see the possible answer for it. And we can run the multiple assessments, and those can be compared. Okay. So let me show you one of the example of reliability center maintenance here. So I'm going into the inside of one of the reliability center maintenance done for this pump. So every reliability center maintenance come with the standard questions, standard 7 questions, starting with the function. So for this pump, the function has been identified as a pumping fluid, and it has been further categorized as a function failure of no flow. So further analysis again identify the failure modes and root cause. So seize pump bearing is my failure mode, and motor shaft damage and incorrect calibration. Those are like two cause code for this pump. So if I want to analyze this incorrect calibration further, this come up with the evade, and once I click on this evade, for this combination, basically we can do and consequences evaluation. Basically, you can see the number of questions are available here. So these all questions are nothing but the question setup you done into the checklist assessment, depending on your primary and secondary action. And depending on your answers, system automatically suggests you to the next question. And basically this tree analysis basically help us to get you the final recommendation. Now in this case, the system has recommended to run the redesign for this equipment, right? And those recommendations further we can create as a part of recommendation into the system. So this is recommendation is again nothing but a document into the system. And in this document, we can assign the estimated cost required to perform this recommendation. What are the impact of that recommendation? What are the processing step or actions we need to perform? And also we can categorize that as a part of your preventive or corrective actions, or plan or unplanned action. And most importantly, we can define an implementation guideline. As an example, we can create a new task list into the EM system, or we can create a new maintenance plan or new maintenance counter into your backend system. Okay, so that is how this recommendation help us to take a appropriate action depending on the need to basis. Again, any recommendation can be further assigned to instruction, or we can create a new instruction, okay, or we can reject the uh, that particular request. So let me show you one more example here of a checklist assessment. Okay, so checklist assessment is again another way of doing assessment. So here we are taking an example of oil analysis. So typically every business do the oil analysis for their number of machines, right, or engines. And depending on their results from your laboratory, we keep them or store somewhere in an offline system, but many times we are not have option to record that into the system. So now this checklist is again one of the way now by which we can use it. The checklist is all about recording your results or inspection. So we have what we have done here, number of your content of your oils, those can be like wear metals or contaminant or additive. So we can define a respective questions, and we can record an answer for them. What is the contaminant of them, right? As a part of individual questions. So for every questions, we can record our answers, and basically how that help us the two ways. So one is it help us to record into the system, so that from future record perspective, we can always go and have that record into the system for any evaluation and verification purpose. And second thing, again, this analytical capability help us to take appropriate decision. As an example, I'm just went into that transformer for which this checklist template has been done. So we have run the 3 assessment for this. Okay, so in for first oil analysis, you can see the iron uh, additive or iron content was very low. In second assessment, again, it slightly increased, but my recent oil analysis shows that iron content has been drastically increased. That means something is wrong with my crankshaft, right? And that can be then action appropriately. So those are like, again, some of the examples. Depending on your business scenario, we can use this checklist or number of assessment by various ways. Okay, and yeah, so that is all what I want to cover as a part of a system demonstration. Now let me take you to back into the system and sorry, presentation, and we will quickly see what are the additional features as a part of ASPM capability. So ASPM, as I mentioned, defined phase always come with the number of master data. So all these new blue boxes are nothing but the new master data objects are specific to your ASPM capability. Okay, all are coming with the most standardized, and they're referring to the various ISO standards, and those new master data object help us to define more granular information about your assets. Second, identify phase again is all about risk and criticality. So we can run this risk and criticality at the equipment or location or group of the equipment level. Basically, it's an idea where we can do the risk assessment on various dimensions, and we can define our own questions and answers. So in the analyze phase, basically, it provides us the number of reliability methodology. So we have already seen the example of checklist and reliability center maintenance. Apart from that, we have a failure mode effect analysis and risk-based inspection, which is another cloud capability which SAP has provided, SAP partner has provided. This is just quick summary of reliability center maintenance, which we have seen into the detail. So this question number 1 to 7 are standard 7 question as per the your standards SAE J101, and your level 0 question is nothing but your risk and criticality assessment, which basically help us to identify that equipment for which we need to run the reliability center maintenance. All these assessment give us the appropriate recommendation, which is nothing but to correct your maintenance strategy. As a part of recommendation, we have again seen that into detail. We can provide an estimated cost. We can define a frequency on which that recommendation should be executed. We can also provide the validity, basically within which that recommendation is valid. We can define either a instruction, which is completely newly provided by your OEM supplier on cloud platform, or we can also tag your existing task list, which is coming from your backend system or EM system. Okay, so that is our number of actions are possible as a part of recommendations. Further to that, we have a preventive maintenance review tile. So this is a dedicated tile where your maintenance planner can review number of recommendations, and depending on the estimated cost required, depending on the frequency recommended, and number of steps and resources and other requirements, either he can accept or reject that recommendations. And then once he implemented that recommendation, basically it has a control life cycle where basically once we assign an instruction, the status move to the instruction assigned, and further when it executed into the EM system, it changes from implementation in progress to implementation completed. Okay, so that is a complete life cycle possible into the system. Lastly, analyze phase basically help us to do number of risk mitigation assessment or trend analysis or defect analysis by using SAP Analytics Cloud. We can also identify the normalized risk score, or we can compare the assessment, or even we can go for the reassessment for the checklist or FME or RCM. Okay. And finally, again, from future or additional development perspective, so SAP has promised to bring this dynamic timer and root cause analysis as an additional to capability. So this again coming with the SAP disclaimer, and we can wait and see what exactly SAP provides over there. Apart from that, we have a risk-based inspection and corrosion under insulation. These are the two dedicated applications which has introduced by SAP partner, and we can purchase them from SAP stores as per their needs. So in nutshell, just to summarize your asset strategy performance module. So these are the like key benefits of your ASPM capability. So starting with the standardization, as we have seen, the number of new master data objects help us to standardize your new definitions of your function, failures, and so many questions and everything, or templates are there, right? And that is a single repository again, which brings in more accuracy into the data and overall assessment. Uh, it helps us to improve your maintenance strategy, and that resulted into the overall availability and in terms of cost optimization model, right? So that is again a benefit as a part of this assessment. It reduces overall risk and improve overall safety and environmental integrity, because those risk assessment done at the initial level, we are able to clearly assess your each and every equipment or group of equipment or systems and identify, and based on those risks we can mitigate those risks. Again, system provides a full trail of audit, because everything is stored into the system and we can always go back and see those historical decisions and recordings, whatever they are in system. It provides a great motivation for individuals, because by using this platform, we are actually not limiting ourselves only to the maintenance. We are actually now collaborating with your operating team, who again we are understanding their aspect by defining your master data from operational perspective, and it's all together a joint ownership to work toward the better maintenance decision or strategy. And then finally, it's a team learning for everyone by using this common network where multiple people are accessing this functionality by using your mobile solutions. So that is all what I want to cover from today's presentation. So I think this is my last, yeah. And I think we are open for the questions. Maybe back to Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prasad. It's very good. Yeah, we have some questions in place. So I'll just, I guess I'll start from the top. So what if a business not using reliability-centered maintenance at present? Can they still go for ASPM?
Yeah, I think definitely that is very much possible, because I think reliability center maintenance is all about knowing your asset more in detail and then documenting that detail into the system. So even if you are not initiating or doing any reliability center maintenance, I think this is the time where we should start it. So again, there can be number of approach we can take if we again want to go for that, wherein basically we can run this reliability center maintenance or ASPM implementation for maybe sample equipments, and based on that pilot, we can extend it to the more wider range of your equipment. But then it's basically a process where we have to define this all reliability center maintenance data anyways from the scratch. So even if you are defining something into the system, either it has to migrate it or define from the scratch by referring to your various ISO standards. Yeah, but then question is again, it's very much possible.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So a second question. I'm going to go a bit faster because the time is up. What will happen with our existing master records in ECC? Do we need to build everything from scratch in ASPM?
No, basically what will happen, so as a part of your initial load, basically what happened whenever we purchase or we start implementing this ASPM or any cloud capability, the first step is to migrate your ERP or your existing master data on this cloud platform. So we have a multiple options available there. So first option is initial load, where basically we can migrate your existing data to the new cloud platform, and then thereafter any subsequent records created either on your cloud platform or into the backend system, we can always sync up, which will duplicate or replicate that record on the both the system. So that all configuration thing, or that basically everything is a configurable thing is available into the system, and as a part of your implementation we can take those necessary actions. But then the master data which we have specifically talked about, the new master data, which typically doesn't available in your existing system also. So definitely those need to be get access and started building right from the scratch.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So as the time is up, we're going to ask any questions that you have been asking later on. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask. I mean, you have our contacts within the presentation. As I said, the recordings will be distributed to you, and if you would like to, you can also always watch them on YouTube. So thank you very much for attending. I hope you guys have a great day further, and hopefully see you next time.